the turkey that couldn't gobble. Theodore was not your ordinary turkey. While all the other turkeys on Sunny Meadow Farm could gobble loudly and proudly, Theodore could only make the most peculiar sounds. Instead of gobble gobble, Theodore went meow meow like Mrs. Patterson's tabby cat. This was becoming quite a problem, especially since Thanksgiving was only 3 days away, and Theodore desperately wanted to join the annual turkey talent show that Farmer Joe held every year to celebrate his feathered friends. "Come on, Theodore," encouraged his best friend, Henrietta the hen. "Just try one more time." Theodore puffed out his chest, stretched his neck as tall as it would go, opened his beak wide, and meow meow meow. A group of nearby turkeys burst into giggles. "That's not how you gobble, Theodore," laughed Gerald, the biggest turkey on the farm. "You sound like you belong in the barn with the cats." Theodore's tail feathers drooped sadly. He had been practicing for weeks, but no matter what he tried, he just couldn't make the right sound. He had tried gargling with pond water, which only made him hiccup bubbles. He had tried copying Roscoe the rooster, which made him crow like cock-a-meow-moo, and he had even tried whispering first and then getting louder, which sounded like a very quiet cat having a conversation with itself. The next morning, Theodore woke up determined to figure out what was wrong with him. He decided to visit Dr. Hoots, the wise old owl who lived in the big oak tree at the edge of the farm. "Dr. Hoots," Theodore called up to the tree, "I need your help. I can't gobble like the other turkeys." Dr. Hoots flew down and adjusted his tiny spectacles. Interesting case. Let me hear you try." Theodore took a deep breath. "Meow meow." "Fascinating," hooted Dr. Hoots, scratching his head with his wing. "Have you always made this sound?" "Well," Theodore thought back, "when I was just a little poult, I got separated from my turkey family during a big thunderstorm. Farmer Joe found me the next morning sleeping with Whiskers, the barn cat, and her 3 kittens. They took care of me until I was big enough to join the other turkeys." Dr. Hoots nodded wisely. "Aha! That explains everything. You learned to speak from cats, so naturally you meow instead of gobble. But Theodore, my feathered friend, this isn't a problem to fix, it's a gift to celebrate." "A gift?" Theodore tilted his head, confused. "Think about it," Dr. Hoots explained. "Has any turkey in the history of Sunny Meadow Farm ever been able to talk to cats?" Theodore's eyes widened. He had never thought about it that way. It was true, he was the only turkey who could have conversations with Whiskers and her family. In fact, just last week he had helped them find the barn mice that had been stealing grain from the feed room. That afternoon, Theodore had an idea. Instead of trying to change his voice, what if he used his special talent for the talent show? On the day of the annual Turkey Talent Show, all the farm animals gathered around the makeshift stage that Farmer Joe had built out of hay bales. Gerald went first with his booming gobble that was so loud it made the chickens fluff their feathers. Gertrude performed an impressive strutting dance, and Gus showed off his ability to fan his tail feathers in perfect symmetry. Finally, it was Theodore's turn. He nervously stepped onto the stage and cleared his throat. "Hens and tom turkeys, animals, and farmers," Theodore announced, "I present to you the first ever Turkey Cat translation service." The audience murmured in confusion. What was Theodore talking about? He called out, "Whiskers, could you please come up here?" The old barn cat sauntered over, looking skeptical. Meow meow meow, she asked. She's asking what all the fuss is about, Theodore translated for the amazed crowd. Farmer Joe's jaw dropped. Did that turkey just translate what my cat said? Theodore nodded proudly. Whiskers says she's been trying to tell you for months that there's a family of raccoons living in the corn silo, and they've been eating the grain every night. The crowd gasped. Farmer Joe had been wondering why all that grain was disappearing. For the next 10 minutes, Theodore acted as a translator between Whiskers and the other cats, and the farmer and animals. The cats revealed the location of 3 different mouse families, warned about a loose board in the chicken coop, and even requested that their food bowls be moved to a shadier spot. When Theodore finished his performance, the entire farm erupted in applause, cheers, and lots of gobbling from his fellow turkeys. Theodore, Farmer Joe announced, that was the most useful talent show performance in the history of Sunny Meadow Farm. You've just solved about a dozen farm mysteries. Gerald waddled over to Theodore, looking sheepish. I'm sorry I made fun of your voice, Theodore. That was actually the coolest thing I've ever seen. Theodore won first place in the talent show, and from that day forward, he became the official farm translator. Whenever there was a problem that involved the cats, Theodore was called in to solve it. But the best part wasn't the blue ribbon or the extra corn. The best part was that Theodore finally realized that being different wasn't something to be embarrassed about, it was something that made him special. And every Thanksgiving after that, when Farmer Joe would tell the story, he would always end with, "And we have the only turkey in the county that speaks fluent cat." Theodore would puff out his chest proudly and add, "Meow meow," which, translated, meant, "And don't you forget it." Theodore eventually did learn to gobble, but he did it only on special occasions. After all, being bilingual made him twice as interesting. The end.